are you? I always
great.
get like, can you see me okay? I feel like I'm really low down. Wait, I also forget if I off. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
Can you see me? I feel like I should sit on
I can see you. I feel
Okay.
like I'm at the very top of the screen and you are somehow at the very, very bottom.
I know. Did that help? I'm trying to sit on a pillow.
Should I go down? Should I just slink down?
Yeah. Hold on, let me get one more pillow.
Okay. You guys, this is a behind the scenes real life of what it takes to go
I know.
live.
Look, I'm like,
I
think that's a little bit too high.
Books.
Is that better?
No. Now both of our, I don't know. My head is somehow cut off on the top of the screen. But
okay, I'm sitting on literally 3
eye level now.
How about now?
You know, you got to do whatever it takes. You're great. You're great. I can see the shirt.
Okay.
That's important. Let's show everyone the shirt. Yeah. Phenomenal woman.
Nice to meet you. Guys, see you.
Nice. Yeah. So with us today is Meena Harris. She is the founder, CEO of female lifestyle brand Phenomenal Woman. She's wearing it right now. It highlights social justice causes. She is the daughter of lawyer and public policy advocate Maya Harris. She is also the niece of former presidential candidate Kamala Harris. And now she's the best-selling author of children's book Kamala and Maya's Big Idea. And we are so excited to have her with us today. She is truly a powerhouse of a woman. She comes from Powerhouse Women. And say hi.
Hi. Cheers.
Are you drinking? Is that I thought it was Red Bull.
It's actually,
I have not seen anyone drink a Red Bull in
It's
10
Pellegrino.
Years.
Yeah.
Okay. So the book came out 2 weeks ago?
Oh God, no, it's been been almost a full month. Can you hear me okay, by the way?
Yeah, you're perfect.
Okay.
Full month. Okay, well that's quarantine time for you.
I know, exactly. It came out on June 2nd. It has been a whirlwind. I never in my life thought I would be launching my very first book, a kid's book, in the middle of a pandemic. And at the time, at the height of mass civil protest, and actually really struggled with how to talk about it. It just felt so insignificant in terms of what was happening and the enormity of what we were seeing across the country. And, I sat with it for a little bit and ultimately decided that it feels like just really important for this moment, actually, and it's been really, related to Yumi and the work that you all do. Wait, is it? I've always said Yumi. It's Yumi, not Yummy, right? Okay.
It's Yummy, yeah.
Okay. Oh, it is Yummy?
No, it's Yumi. It's Yumi.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I've been really blown away just by conversations I've been having with parents in particular, right? Around how to engage with this moment, how to talk to your kids, how to explain to them what's going on, and realizing, I could have never imagined this, but that, the book is really a tool that I think parents can use as sort of a building block and to really start those conversations. And I mean, it wasn't a mistake. The book, there's all these themes around community organizing and leadership and speaking up, right? That's just sort of what's in me and what I wanted to, give to kids. But it's kind of wild to be doing it in this moment. And I can't believe it's already been a month. I feel like I've been talking about the book for 10 years now. So
I think it's really powerful because I saw something where, let's back up a second. So the book is Kamala and Maya's Big Idea, and it's based on a true story from your aunt and your mom, where they were growing up and they didn't have a playground outside of their apartment building, and so they got together and they did what?
So I'm not going to give away the whole book. You have to buy it.
You have to, yeah.
So I mean, it's basically, two girls. It's based on and two sisters. It's based on a true story from the childhood of my mom and aunt. And it's about, as you said, them spotting sort of an issue and a problem in their apartment complex and deciding that they're going to do something about it. And that means that, they come together as sisters. They bring together all of the kids in the apartment building and organize them and figure out how to get it done. And they persevere. in the face of, adults telling them, oh, sorry, that can't be done, or you're too little, or, it's too expensive. And they figure it out, and they keep at it. And I think in that way, it's really important, universal lessons in many ways around not only problem solving, but persisting, right? And the concept in the book, the way that we talk about it is like turning a no into a maybe into a yes. And some of the
it's so funny because every time little kid, my daughter says this all the time, because every time I say maybe, she goes, that means no. She's like, I know that means
like, no. I know what that means, but she's also thinking about, okay, well, how do I say yes?
Yeah. How do I take this and sort of and shape it to be what I want the reaction to be, or what I want the response to be? And I think you said something about kids being so little, right? Like, but the concept that we're seeing kind of explode across all of the United States right now, and even, we've seen it with Greta Thunberg, and we've seen it with Mari Copeny, who was Little Miss Flint, is that these kids have the ability to talk about and organize around concepts in a way that adults have either lost the imagination to do so, if we're going to put it in very like polite terms. Mm-hmm. They've lost their ability to do this. And so kids can look at the world in a different way and say, like, let me try and figure this out for myself. And so to write kids off in a way where, a lot of people wrote in and they were like, well, how do I talk to my kids about race, and how do I talk to my kids about diversity? And I want to get into that a little bit, but I think the power of youth right now is so compelling, and it's so inspirational. And at the same time, I think you're never too young to do something, and you're never too old to do something, right?
Totally.
So, and there's this large swath of people in between where you see people so inspired by children and by older generations who actually have the capacity to change their mind around whether it's Black Lives Matter or climate change or what the sort of issue at hand might be. And you think, wow, I can get involved. Like, these kids can be the impetus for getting me involved.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's so many layers to it. I think the first is, what I'm definitely promoting through the book and writing it, and hoping that kids, including boys and white children, are engaging with, is looking at girls, and in my book, Black girls, as leaders, right? Which means following them, following their leadership, listening to them, looking at them as people who have interesting big ideas that are worth supporting and worth, going after. So that's first and foremost to say that. And as you already noted, with folks like Greta and Mari, and I have a secret spreadsheet of all of these incredible, like, powerful girls, because that's really what I'm inspired by, and that's really what I want to do more around. But the point is that they're having an impact, and they're showing adults, and they're showing other girls that, as you said, you cannot be too young to start this. And then I think the other piece of it is really, adults being able to derive inspiration and meaning from the unfiltered insights of children and youth who are coming to this with fresh eyes, perhaps more critical eyes, unburdened by history, to put it lightly,
also
and so I think there's a lot of power in that, and the point is letting them lead, and we're seeing that they can do it and make an impact, but then also as adults listening to them. And that's definitely, what the whole sort of inspiration for the book was, in terms of, using it as a way, as a vehicle to pass on, those values to my own children that I was raised with, in terms of the strong, incredible women that, taught me all that stuff. Right. And part of that.
So let's talk about those women. Because obviously,
let me hold on my.
No, it's okay.
I kept going off.
I always forget to do not disturb.
Yeah, it's my phone is like, it's out of control. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's totally fine. You're a busy lady, and I know we only have you for like 20 or so minutes.
Yeah.
So I want to power through some of this. Your mom was a single mom. She took you everywhere. She took you to demonstrations, and she took you to work. And I'm curious what conversations and what you gleaned from that experience. Not only just, these aren't only dinner table conversations, these are life conversations, right? So they're like, polite society is like, oh, you don't talk about sex, religion, politics, money, all of these things. And yet what we're seeing is, if I really look at it with like a microscope, right? That to me is coded language for, we don't talk about these things that keep white men in power.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't share it. We don't share the things that allow us to understand where other people will stand on an issue, whatever it is. So when you're a kid and you're going through life with a mom who brings you everywhere, what is it that you're gleaning from her, and sort of just through osmosis getting from being around an energy like that?
Yeah, I think like, not to be lame, but going back to one of the messages in the book, which is that no one can do everything, but everyone can do something.
Yeah.
Which is to say that I saw my mom doing something in her work, in her life, and literally had a front row seat to that, right? As you said, I was with her all the time. I saw her working. I knew what she was doing. So there's, I think, two pieces to that. One, that my whole family, and in particular my grandmother, I think, was doing the work of like putting it in perspective of like the significance and teaching the lessons, whereas my mom was like doing the work, you know? My grandmother was too, but when you talk about like how I was perceiving it and absorbing it as a child, I think I think that that's what all parents need to do, whether it's through multiple family members or one, you know, having the conversations, talking about this stuff, being honest with children, not like dumbing down things, not babying them, right? Understanding that they have an immense capacity and ability to understand what's going on and to talk to them like they do, but also the importance of following that up with action, right? Like we can read books and have conversations all day long, but are you doing something about it? And the point is that action can be a small thing, right? I think that that's the part that makes people feel sort of like overwhelmed, or, you know, it may seem daunting if you look at someone like my mom or my aunt who've dedicated their lives to doing this work. I understand that not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody's going to be able to do that, but there are other ways that you can engage in, you know, small incremental ways that we know when they add up really make an impact, including in your own space, but then also the inspiration you're providing to other people who see that and decide, well, I'm going to speak up, or I'm going to do something, right? And that, you know, it's important to know that, you know, each of us can do something, as the book says, and that it's okay to start small. It's okay to start where you are. And in fact, that's what I would recommend, right? Especially if you're new to it, start in your own community, start from a place that's about your own, you know, unique passions and contributions. And that's what's going to keep you engaged. Because I think that the sort of like third step is that you have to do it consistently, right? It's not showing up once to one march or donating once to one organization in a particular moment. It's about continuing the work, deepening the engagement. And I think, yes, ultimately aspiring to doing more, right? I think we should all challenge ourselves to be doing more, and not look at it as just sort of checking off a box, right?
Right.
So yeah, I think I grew up in a very unique household where I, you know, was sort of a place of constant sort of engagement with this stuff, not only the dinner table conversations, not only, you know, and part of the dinner table conversations were like, what did you do at work today? And it's like, for my mom, you know, at the time, but she was the executive director of the ACLU of Northern California. It's like, oh, we held a like mass, you know, press conference or, you know, protest at, you know, like that's what she was doing every day. But part of it too, like I just have incredible memories of, you know, she was not only a single mom, but a very young mom, of, you know, being with her on campus at law school, and her classmates wearing, you know, black armbands as a demonstration against apartheid. Like, these are things that I just saw and, you know, absorbed. And the point is that they were doing the work. And as much as I know that might not be realistic for sort of, you know, an everyday kind of, you know, family, there are ways that we as parents can just engage with this stuff. And it starts with having the conversations. It starts with reading the books and then thinking about, all right, how do I follow that up with action, no matter how small.
But I think that's so interesting, because in the book, it starts on both the literal and metaphorical playground, right? So you are not, there's no conversation that's too big or too small to have with a child. I've seen this so many times with my own daughter, where she'll come to me and she'll ask questions. Even last night, she came to me, and she's turning 7 on Friday, so she's a little bit older than your kids. But I grew up in a household that was not vocal. My parents voted different ways. And so they never told me who they voted for.
Interesting.
There was never a discussion of who they voted for. But what they did do was, instead of talking about it, it was the action, right? So I'm surrounded by people who didn't look like us, who didn't speak the same language as us. And through their actions, I sort of learned to parse what was important to me and what I would then find to be important to my children. And as we've gotten older, I've had the tough conversations with them. And we've talked about, my mom was at Berkeley in the 60s and my dad was at SF State in the 60s. And like, what did that look like? And what I found is that they were of the generation where it's like, you don't talk about these things.
That's
and
interesting.
Yet they were still able to impart this sort of moral obligation onto me without being explicit.
Yeah.
At this point, I feel we all have a moral obligation to talk to our kids about things in a way that perhaps our parents' generation didn't, right? So I openly talk to my daughter about racism, about police brutality, about like the anti-racist work that we do in our own home, about why, my feelings about the current president. And she came to me last night and she said, does that make us the bad guys? And I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, she said, you don't support the current president. Does that make you a bad guy? And I said, that's a really interesting question. And then we had to go down the line of what it means to live in a democracy. And what I had to do was reteach myself a lot of things about what it means to be a political dissenter and what it means. Like, does the president have authoritative power? And all of these things that she was asking me, where I was like, oh, damn, I got to back up and like relearn some government stuff myself now, because I'm not in the position to really give you the correct information. So
it's also, that's interesting because I'm guessing she's 7. So she's starting to learn about government and from the classroom, right? Like my kids don't have that yet.
Her Zoom class.
Yeah. And that's wild to me because so my kids think that the president is a bad guy.
Yeah.
Right. And that he's not a community leader the way that we define community leaders. He has bad behavior. He doesn't listen, things like that, adapting it to, 3-year-old stuff. But what's also interesting to me is, in my family, I think they preemptively were like doing the work of countering the narratives that they knew that I was going to be hearing at school, such as like respecting authority and respecting the president. And I was taught from a very young age to question authority, right?
So I think that's so
really
hard for kids. I think it's so hard for kids because you're like, I'm the adult, you listen to me, this is your bedtime, finish what your vegetables, whatever it is. And then when it comes to the authoritative figures that are in our lives where, a lot of people are talking about defunding the police. A lot of people are political dissenters and don't believe that Trump is like a good guy, right? And so having those conversations with your kids where they're like, wait, what does it make you and what does it make me? But they are capable. And I think that's what that is continually unfolding before my eyes and is just so unbelievably interesting where, you see in the book, like, I'm not going to give it away either, but like they're so capable. Children are so capable and they pick up on the nuance and they're listening in a way that maybe you didn't think they were. But the conversations that you have, the people that you invite around your dinner table, how you act in the world, they are taking every one of those things and they're learning how to do life for themselves. So I want to I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about representation in media because we know that publishing is predominantly white. I think the stat is 50% of all characters in children's books are white and then 27% are anthropomorphic.
Yep.
And those
I think it's 50% are white and male, I think. But it's definitely 50% white for sure.
And then so the characters even that are anthropomorphic, there's more a percentage of animals that talk like humans and act like humans than diverse minority characters. So and not only are the characters not diverse, publishing we know is predominantly white, where there aren't that many Black authors, and you're one of the handful of Black women who has published a children's book. So I want to talk about why that's important to you and sort of how that sets the stage for other authors.
Yeah, and I would add illustrators too.
Yeah.
I think the point is when we're having conversations right now around systemic racism, systemic injustice, and dismantling all of that, the publishing industry is just but one of those systems that suffers from all of the same issues that we are seeing across a lot of different industries, and I think are having a big, reckoning around that, and I'm glad to see it. But yeah, I think, it's part of the inspiration for me for writing the book was reading with my own children and not seeing the characters I wanted them to see in terms of representation for themselves. And that includes brown skin and curly hair and, growing up in a family like ours. Like it just wasn't on the pages of the books we were reading. I was, somewhat lucky in that my older daughter, when she was born, it coincided with this sort of burst of what we can call feminist literature, which is like the Rebel Girls and,
Right.
Rad Women.
Girls.
And
yeah,
and those were pioneering. I mean, think about the fact that this was only 3 to 4 years ago, and it was like it was mania around it because it was so, in part because it was so lacking, right?
Yeah.
But even for me, I came to a point of like, I'm tired of reading lists of women and like lists of women in history that like are dead. And you mentioned this earlier that like kids see things, they absorb things, and they want to be those things. Like we have a family member who's running for president, and in no time, my older daughter was saying, I want to be a president when I grow up, right? She still says that. I show her things like, the Harlem dance, theater. She wants to be a dancer, right? Like they absorb all of this stuff. And I was seeing that, we're reading and it's like, I'm changing the pronoun from he to she because it's every freaking page I turn, it's like another male character. So that's all to say that, yeah, we have a long way to go. I'm very proud, though, to be a part of sort of a new generation, if you want to call it, or like class of, authors and as well illustrators. I'm very proud that I have a Latina illustrator, Anna, who are, changing the face of children's literature. I'm certainly not the first. I think, first of all, there are lots of Black authors and illustrators, but part of it in terms of the industry is giving them access. And giving them book deals, right? Like there's just so many barriers. And the point I'll make is that, I'm proud to be a part of a community that existed far beyond before I came on the scene. I'm very new. But and others that I will name are, Vashti Harrison, who's a Black illustrator, Matthew Cherry, of course, who wrote Hair Love, right? So I'm proud to be now a part of that community. And we've made incredible progress thanks to their work, but we still have a very, very long way to go. And I think part of it ultimately, and what I'm trying to get through with my book is that, and we're seeing it in Hollywood, right, in terms of like representation and roles and for actors and producers everywhere, but which is that like the book that I wrote is not called Black Girls Lead and Our Community Organizers, right? It's just like they're existing in the world in their power and in their leadership the way that we know they already do. It's just about showing those images to the world and to our children. They already exist, right? And so it's just about prioritizing them and actually giving them pages and books and giving them airtime and actually, elevating them. And so that was really important to me to just, convey that like it just is. And by the way, that was my worldview. And I think that it was very formative for me to have that. My worldview was like dominated by women, and particularly Black women who are doing awesome shit in the world.
Yeah.
And I would love for my daughters to grow up with that. I would love for other children to grow up. I'd love for boys and white children to grow up with a worldview of admiring and aspiring to Black women being leaders and Black women being presidents and everything else, the point being that because the default has been forever white men, and that is still the default. That is still, the most of the images that they are absorbing and that they are therefore aspiring to. So I think the point too is that we have a huge opportunity to start with our children. And I think people are seeing that as well from, the protests, that when we're talking about anti-racism and raising, families that are empathetic and compassionate and interested in people who are different than them and concerned about their experiences and circumstances in living in America, like that stuff starts right now in your home.
Right.
So
do you think there's anything to the argument, and I personally don't, when people say they're too young you know, there's parents who have taken the colorblind approach in the past. There's parents who think that their children shouldn't have to be exposed, that we should let them be children.
No, I disagree with that. I think, look, there's nuance here. Number one, I just wrote an entire op-ed in the Washington Post a week ago about color blindness.
You all should go read it. Go read it.
And promoting that in children's books, I think that it's very harmful, and I think that it's the wrong approach. So I will just say that flat out.
Yeah.
On the topic of, you know, they're too young, like as a starting point, of course, there's an age-appropriate way to talk to our children. But that doesn't mean that we don't talk to them at all, or that we avoid it, or that we sugarcoat it or make it colorblind, right? So, you know, am I don't know, I kind of did just like straight up show her videos, like she can deal with it, it's fine if I explain it to her. But like, am I showing my 2-year-old like videos of like violence and of the police shooting rubber bullets at people? No. But is there a way for me to have a conversation with, yes, my 2-year-old about police brutality? And I just think, you know, like this whole idea, I've heard people talk about this, like I need to protect my kids and I can't protect them anymore, meaning like shielding them from these realities. And part of me is like, if you're a non-Black parent saying that, like what a privilege that you get to protect your children from knowing that the police fucking kill people. For me, I'm protecting my children by teaching them that so they don't get fucking killed, right? Like, so let's also think about that in terms of how the different experiences of different parents and how they're talking to their kids. And I'd make the bigger point that it's the responsibility of non-Black parents to explain that that's the circumstances of other kids that are different from their own. That's the point and the reason why we need to emphasize differences and celebrate them and acknowledge them, right? And not start with sameness and not start with, oh, we're all alike, because we're not, right? I talk to my kids about this stuff differently than white parents may, up until this point at least. I hope that, you know, people are really changing that. So, you know, as I said at the beginning, like I was like a super only child, and so I think not only was it sort of a philosophy in terms of child rearing, but it was also just the circumstances where I was kind of like talked to like an adult. You know, I was at the dinner table, I was invited to be a part of these conversations, and not only that, I was challenged that if I had something to say or an opinion about what we were talking about, that it better be backed up with like some substance, or at least a willingness and curiosity to learn, right? I mean, my daughter all the time, she's very confident, and she'll, you know, say some random thing, and I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what, just explain to me what exactly you mean. Or, you know, like we have to, this is, by the way, again, like, this is problem solving. This is like critical thinking. So if you're not motivated by like raising super, whatever you want to call it, activist, anti-racist, like change maker kids, like at least raise kids that are going to look at the world with a critical eye, because that's, it turns out, you know, they'll probably get into a good college. They'll probably like, they'll be successful if you, at the very least, right, like come to the world with, you know, a critical, innovative, creative, whatever you want to call it. Like, it's just interesting people, curious people that, if are, I think, challenged in that way, tend to do good, interesting shit in the world.
I think it's what you talk about in the book. It's ordinary children can do extraordinary things.
Exactly.
And it's not, no one person can do everything, but every person can do something, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's these conversations, the action, someone's just said, love her passion, the passion that you bring to the table, to the work that you do, to the conversations that you have, to discussions that you have during bath time, to the books that are on your shelf, to the media that they watch on TV. My daughter goes to a bilingual school. Mm-hmm. And so when she wants to watch TV, and I feel like she's watched too much TV, I'm like, okay, but you have to watch TV in Spanish, because if you're gonna be watching, like, you have to, like, something's got to give right now, because, right? Yeah. You know, we've been home for 3 months, and I'm like, we got to do some kind of schooling right now.
Yeah, right.
But I think I just love so much this idea that it like starts on the playground, mm-hmm. or even before you get to the playground, like it starts on your home turf. And as you move out into the world, you can take the spirit of what your mom and aunt do in this book, and you can move it into your adult life. Mm-hmm. and you can use all of the tools that you've been given to build a better generation than the one you grew up in, which is what a lot of people say. Like, we have the responsibility to create a better future, to have our children create a better future. And that starts with every single thing you do at home. I know that's scary for a lot of parents because they don't want to fuck up, right? And it's scary for a lot of white people right now because they're like, I don't know how to have these conversations. I don't know how to have them publicly. I don't know how to have them privately. I don't want to mess up in front of my kids because I know they're listening. And you have to teach your children too that you are going to fail, especially white children. Like, you will fail and the world will forgive you for it, right? Like, you will be able to move through this world in a lane that has been like beautifully laid out for you. And what do you do to invite more people into that lane? And what do you do to make sure that you're like moving out of the way when other people are coming into that lane? So I just think the book is beautiful. The work you're doing is beautiful.
Thank you.
Are thrilled to have you on here sharing your perspective and your story. And we support you fully. So
thank you. Well, love you guys. I feel like, I've known you all since like pre-launch. And so it's been, we kind of been on, similar timelines and journeys and paths in terms of the being entrepreneurs and building businesses. And it's really cool to see how you all have grown and, all the stuff that you're doing, and including this around content and really engaging in meaningful, substantive ways with parents that go beyond your core sort of business, which is like kids food, right? Or baby food. So it's really awesome to be a part of your journey too. And thank you for all of your support since the beginning.
We say we're building a healthier generation, and what we've really come to understand this year is building a healthy generation goes so much further beyond food. Yeah. It's everything. It's head to toe health. And that means like brain, heart, soul, gut, all of it. So
exactly.
Everyone go check out Meena's Instagram. It's at Meena. Our Anti-Racist Resource Center has a link to buy her book. You can also buy it. Is there anywhere that you want to plug specifically?
It's getting sold out at a lot of places. So if you want it like right away, it is available at all book retailers. We have a partnership with a bunch of independent bookstores across the country. So always encouraging people to shop local if you can. If you go to phenomenalgirl.com, we have a bunch of resources there, including independent bookstores where you can buy it and links to them, as well as a list of Black-owned bookstores as well, if people are looking for more resources to support.
Beautiful.
Thank you. So
Thanks,
nice to
Meena.
see you.
Yeah,
appreciate it. All right, take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.